The graduation cap feels heavy on my head as 2,000 people stare at me in absolute silence. My sister Amanda just screamed that I cheated my way through my master's degree in engineering at Northwestern University. The auditorium is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone's waiting to see what I'll do. My parents look mortified in the third row. Professor Williams, my thesis advisor, has his mouth hanging open. But I know something none of them know. Something that's about to change everything forever. 3 years ago, I thought I was being the best big brother in the world. Amanda was drowning in her business administration program at DePaul University, and I couldn't bear to watch her struggle. She'd call me at midnight, sobbing about failing her accounting courses, begging me to help her understand the material. What started as tutoring sessions quickly became something much darker. I was 25 then, working my way through my bachelor's degree in engineering while juggling 2 part-time jobs to pay rent on my studio apartment in Evanston. Every spare moment I had, I spent helping Amanda. She'd text me photos of her homework assignments, and I'd solve every problem, explain every concept, write detailed study guides that she could memorize for exams. But Amanda always wanted more. When she struggled with her statistics course, she begged me to take her online quizzes. Just once, she promised, just to boost her grade enough to pass. I logged into her student portal and aced quiz after quiz, telling myself I was protecting our family's investment in her education. Our parents, Robert and Linda, had mortgaged their small hardware store in Schaumburg to pay for both our college expenses. The weight of their sacrifice pressed down on me every single day. The paper writing started during Amanda's junior year. She'd send me assignment prompts with desperate messages about not having enough time. Between her internship applications and sorority obligations, she claimed she couldn't handle the workload. I spent entire weekends researching business case studies, crafting arguments about corporate strategy, polishing her prose until it gleamed with academic excellence she'd never earned. My own grades began slipping. While Amanda sailed through her courses with a perfect 4.0 average, I was pulling all-nighters trying to catch up on my own engineering assignments. I'd finish Amanda's marketing analysis at 3 in the morning, then struggle through my thermodynamics homework with bloodshot eyes and a foggy brain. My professors started asking if everything was okay at home. I always said, yes, everything was fine. Amanda graduated summa cum laude from DePaul with a business administration degree that existed entirely because of my work. She landed a prestigious position at Morrison & Associates, one of Chicago's top consulting firms, based on credentials I'd helped her fabricate. Meanwhile, I barely scraped by my bachelor's degree with a 3.2 average that reflected my exhaustion more than my ability. Standing here now in my cap and gown, the irony tastes bitter in my mouth. Amanda is accusing me of the exact crime she committed for 4 straight years. Every paper she submitted, every quiz she passed, every accolade she received was built on my labor and her lies. Yet somehow she's managed to twist reality so completely that she believes her own fiction. I can see Derek Patterson sitting beside her in the audience, his family arranged around him like a political campaign photo. Derek's father is State Senator Bradley Harrison, and his mother chairs the board of 3 different charities. They represent everything Amanda has always craved: social status, political connections, old money, respectability. Amanda has been dating Derek for 8 months now, carefully crafting herself into the perfect politician's daughter-in-law. But I notice something in Amanda's eyes as she watches me approach the podium. It's not righteous anger or moral indignation, it's fear. Pure, desperate fear that her carefully constructed world is about to crumble. She's not exposing my cheating because she believes I'm guilty. She's trying to destroy my credibility before I can destroy hers. Professor Williams stands up slowly, his face a mask of confusion and concern. He's been my mentor for 2 years, guiding my research on sustainable energy systems, believing in my potential when I barely believed in myself. The disappointment in his expression cuts deeper than Amanda's public accusation. This man has invested countless hours in my education. Written recommendation letters for my job applications treated me like the son he never had. Now he's questioning everything he thought he knew about my character. My parents sit frozen in their seats, Robert's weathered hands gripping his program so tightly the paper is crumpling. Linda's eyes darting between Amanda and me like she's watching a tennis match that will determine our family's future. They sacrificed everything for our educations, working 16-hour days at their store, skipping vacations, driving cars until the wheels fell off. The thought of their disappointment makes my stomach churn with acid. But as I take each step toward the podium, my hand brushes against the manila envelope tucked inside my jacket. Amanda doesn't know about this envelope. She doesn't know what I've discovered about her recent activities or how her web of deception extends far beyond college coursework. She thinks she's in control of this narrative, but she's about to learn that some secrets refuse to stay buried. The auditorium remains deadly silent except for the soft squeak of my dress shoes against the polished floor. 2,000 graduation guests are holding their breath, waiting to see how this family drama will unfold. Some probably think this is entertaining dinner party gossip. Others seem genuinely shocked by the public nature of Amanda's accusation, but none of them understand that what they're witnessing isn't just sibling rivalry or academic misconduct. This is the moment when 3 years of lies, manipulation, and betrayal finally come home to roost, and Amanda has no idea what's coming. 2 weeks before today's graduation ceremony, I came home to my apartment and immediately sensed something was wrong. The throw pillows on my couch were arranged differently. My coffee table books were stacked in the wrong order. Someone had been in my space, moving through my belongings with careful precision. I spent an hour searching every corner of my one-bedroom apartment, checking behind picture frames, inside kitchen cabinets, underneath furniture cushions. Finally, wedged between my desk and the wall, I found a tiny digital recording device no bigger than a pack of gum, the kind you could order online for $50 and use to capture conversations from 20 feet away. My blood ran cold as I realized what this meant. Someone had been recording me without my knowledge, probably for weeks or even months. I connected the device to my laptop and listened to hours of audio files that made my skin crawl with recognition and dread. There was my voice, clear as daylight, discussing Amanda's college assignments with study partners. But the conversations had been edited, chopped up, and rearranged to create an entirely different narrative. Sentences were spliced together to make it sound like I was bragging about cheating on my own coursework, instead of complaining about helping Amanda with hers. In one manipulated recording, my voice seemed to say, "I've been getting away with this for years. My professors have no idea I'm submitting work that isn't mine." But I recognized the original context. I had been telling my friend Marcus about how Amanda was getting away with academic fraud, expressing frustration that her professors couldn't see through her deception. The recording artist had simply rearranged my words to reverse their meaning. Another edited clip made it sound like I was explaining sophisticated cheating techniques to other students. In reality, I had been describing to my study group how online essay mills operated, warning them about classmates who might be purchasing papers instead of writing their own. The editor had removed all context and spliced my explanations together to create a confession of guilt. But the most damaging recording was a phone conversation between Amanda and me from 6 months ago. In the edited version, my voice appeared to admit taking money in exchange for completing assignments for other students. Anyone listening would conclude I was running an academic fraud operation. However, I remembered the actual conversation perfectly. I had been confronting Amanda about suspicious charges on her credit card, asking why she was paying websites like Essay Genius and Test Taking Pros. She had deflected by claiming I was paranoid, and I had sarcastically repeated her excuses back to her. The genius of Amanda's editing was its subtlety. She hadn't fabricated words I never spoke. Instead, she had rearranged my actual statements to create false impressions, making her lies almost impossible to disprove without the original unedited recordings. Anyone who listened to these clips would hear my voice clearly stating things that sounded like admissions of guilt. I realized this had been Amanda's insurance policy all along. She had been secretly recording our conversations for months, building a library of audio she could manipulate if her academic fraud was ever discovered. If anyone questioned her credentials or accused her of cheating, she would simply present evidence that I was the real culprit. She would paint herself as an innocent victim caught up in her brother's schemes. The most chilling discovery was a folder on the recording device labeled Backup Plan. It contained email drafts addressed to my professors, my employer contacts, and the HR department at Boeing, where I had recently accepted a position as a junior engineer. Amanda had already written detailed accusations against me, complete with attached audio files and a timeline of my supposed criminal behavior. She had researched the email addresses of everyone important in my academic and professional life. Professor Williams was on her list along with Dean Margaret Foster and the entire Northwestern Engineering Department faculty. She had even found contact information for my future supervisors at Boeing, preparing to sabotage my career before it could begin. But Amanda had made one critical error. She assumed I was the same naive, trusting person who had spent 3 years enabling her academic fraud. She didn't realize that helping her cheat had taught me valuable lessons about deception documentation and protecting myself from people who viewed family loyalty as a one-way street. 3 days before graduation, I confronted Amanda about the recordings in the parking lot outside her Lincoln Park apartment. She didn't deny planting the device or editing the audio files. Instead, she looked me straight in the eye and explained her logic with chilling calm. "Joshua," she said, "you've always been too idealistic for your own good. You think integrity matters more than success, but you're wrong. The world doesn't care about your moral principles. It only cares about results. I've built a life based on results, and I'm not going to let your conscience destroy everything I've worked for." She informed me that copies of the edited recordings had already been sent to Boeing's Human Resources Department, along with an anonymous tip suggesting they investigate my academic background before my start date. She had also shared the audio files with select members of Derek's family, painting me as a dangerous influence she was trying to distance herself from. "If you ever try to expose what happened in college," Amanda continued, "I'll destroy your reputation so completely that no engineering firm in Chicago will hire you. I'll make sure everyone knows you're a fraud and a liar. But if you keep your mouth shut and play along, we can both move forward with our lives." I asked her why she was willing to sacrifice our relationship for her own protection. Her answer revealed how completely she had lost touch with basic human decency. "Because I'm not actually sacrificing anything," she replied. "You were never really my brother Joshua. You were just a useful tool that helped me get where I needed to go. Now that I don't need your help anymore, our relationship was always going to end. I'm just making sure it ends on my terms." Standing here at my graduation ceremony watching Amanda's performance of righteous indignation, I understand that her public accusation is the final step in a calculated plan. She's been executing for months. She believes she has cornered me completely, that I have no choice but to accept humiliation and let her destroy my reputation to protect her own. But Amanda doesn't know about the manila envelope in my jacket. She doesn't realize that while she was recording me, I was conducting my own investigation into her post-graduation activities. And what I discovered makes her college cheating look like a minor infraction compared to the crimes she's been committing as an adult. The evidence in my pocket will change everything, not just for Amanda and me, but for dozens of innocent people whose lives she's been destroying with the same calculating cruelty she's always shown her own family. 6 months ago, I started noticing things that didn't add up about Amanda's lifestyle. She was supposedly earning an entry-level consulting salary, yet she carried designer handbags that cost more than my monthly rent, wore jewelry that sparkled like genuine diamonds, and drove a BMW that should have been far beyond her budget. When Amanda invited Derek's family to dinner at our parents' house in Schaumburg, I watched her present expensive wine and premium steaks as if casual entertaining was well within her means. Our parents seemed uncomfortable with the lavish spread, but Amanda brushed off their concerns, claiming her consulting firm provided generous bonuses for exceptional performance. But I knew something our parents didn't. I had helped Amanda craft the resume and cover letters that landed her position at Morrison and Associates. I understood exactly what starting consultants earned at Chicago firms, and it wasn't enough to support the lifestyle Amanda was flaunting. My suspicions deepened when Amanda started making frequent trips to our parents' hardware store, claiming she wanted to help with bookkeeping and inventory management. Robert and Linda were delighted that their successful daughter was taking interest in the family business. They gave her access to the store's financial records, grateful for her business school expertise in organizing their accounting systems. However, I noticed that Amanda's visits coincided with periods when our parents were dealing with supplier negotiations or customer complaints that kept them away from the cash register for extended periods. She had complete access to daily receipts, bank deposit slips, and customer payment records. The timing seemed suspiciously convenient. I decided to install security cameras in the store ostensibly to protect against shoplifting and break-ins. I told our parents the cameras were a graduation gift, a way to give them peace of mind about their investment. Robert and Linda were touched by my thoughtfulness, never suspecting that I was actually trying to protect them from their own daughter. The footage I captured over 6 weeks revealed a systematic pattern of theft that made my stomach turn with revulsion and heartbreak. Amanda wasn't just skimming occasional cash from the register. She had developed an elaborate scheme to steal money while creating false records that would hide her crimes during routine audits. She would arrive at the store early before our parents and alter the previous day's sales receipts. If a customer had paid $200 in cash for plumbing supplies, Amanda would modify the receipt to show $150, pocketing the $50 difference. She then adjusted the inventory records to match the false receipts, creating a paper trail that made the theft invisible to casual inspection. Amanda also discovered that many of our parents' longtime customers paid for large orders with cashier's checks or money orders that wouldn't be deposited until the following business day. She would record these payments in the store's ledger, then simply take the checks and deposit them into her own bank account. When our parents eventually noticed the missing payments, Amanda would claim the customers had changed their minds or asked for refunds that she had processed while Robert and Linda were busy with other tasks. The most heartbreaking part was watching our parents' confusion when their accounting numbers didn't match their actual cash flow. They spent hours rechecking their math, assuming they had made computational errors or forgotten to record certain transactions. They began doubting their own business competence, wondering if they were too old-fashioned to manage modern bookkeeping requirements. I hired a private investigator named Jake Morrison to verify what the security footage was showing me. Jake was a former police detective who specialized in white-collar crime, and he quickly identified additional evidence of Amanda's fraud that I had missed. Bank records showed that Amanda was making cash deposits into her personal account that far exceeded her consulting salary. She was also using stolen money to pay for purchases that supported her deception about her professional success. The expensive dinners she bought for Derek's family were charged to a credit card that she paid off with money stolen from our parents. Jake's investigation revealed that Amanda was spending approximately $1,500 per month of stolen cash to maintain her fake lifestyle. Over 8 months, she had embezzled more than $12,000 from a small business that was already struggling to compete with big-box hardware chains. But Amanda's fraud extended beyond simple theft. She was actively sabotaging our parents' business relationships to create more opportunities for stealing. When longtime customers called to complain about billing discrepancies, Amanda would intercept the calls and convince our parents that the customers were trying to avoid paying legitimate debts. She turned Robert and Linda against people who had supported their store for decades, destroying relationships built over years of honest business dealings. The private investigator also discovered that Amanda was preparing to steal much more than petty cash. She had convinced our parents to make her an authorized signatory on the store's business accounts, supposedly to help with banking tasks when they were busy with customers. However, Jake found evidence that Amanda was researching how to transfer larger sums without triggering bank fraud alerts. She had downloaded forms for business loans and credit lines that would give her access to the store's entire equity value. If her plan succeeded, Amanda could potentially steal the $150,000 that represented our parents' life savings and retirement security. But the most damaging evidence was what Jake discovered about Amanda's consulting job. Morrison and Associates hadn't given Amanda any bonuses for exceptional performance. In fact, she was on probation for submitting client reports that contained fabricated data and plagiarized analysis. Her supervisor had documented multiple instances where Amanda's work had to be completely rewritten before it could be presented to clients. Amanda's academic fraud had followed her into her professional career. She was still stealing other people's work, still lying about her capabilities, still building success on a foundation of deception that would inevitably collapse. The only difference was that now her victims included not just professors and universities, but clients who were paying thousands of dollars for expertise Amanda didn't actually possess. Standing here at my graduation, feeling the weight of the manila envelope against my chest, I understand that Amanda's public accusation is motivated by desperation rather than malice. She knows her crimes are on the verge of being exposed. She's trying to discredit me before I can present evidence of her fraud to our parents, her employer, or law enforcement. Amanda believes that if she can convince everyone that I'm a liar and a cheat, no one will believe my accusations against her. She's gambling that destroying my reputation will buy her enough time to cover her tracks, maybe even frame me for her own crimes. But what Amanda doesn't realize is that I haven't been working alone. The evidence against her involves multiple witnesses, financial institutions, and law enforcement agencies who have already begun investigating her activities. Her public attack on my character has actually accelerated a process that was already in motion. The manila envelope contains copies of bank records, security footage, witness statements, and official correspondence that will not only clear my name, but expose a pattern of criminal behavior that extends far beyond our family's personal drama. Amanda thinks she's in control of this narrative, but she's actually walking into a trap that she set for herself through months of escalating criminal behavior. And in just a few minutes, when I whisper the right words to Dean Margaret Foster, Amanda will discover that sometimes the people you betray have been preparing for your betrayal longer than you think. As I approach the podium, Dean Margaret Foster rises from her chair with a composure that immediately tells me she's been expecting this moment. Her expression isn't one of surprise or confusion at Amanda's outburst. Instead, she looks like someone who has been waiting patiently for a carefully planned sequence of events to unfold. Dean Foster is a woman in her mid-50s who has spent 30 years navigating the complex politics of higher education. She's weathered budget crises, student protests, faculty scandals, and administrative upheavals with the steady calm of someone who understands that universities are fundamentally human institutions, prone to all the weaknesses and contradictions that implies. Nothing about her demeanor suggests that she views Amanda's accusation as a crisis requiring immediate damage control. When I reach the podium, Dean Foster extends her hand for what appears to be a routine congratulatory handshake. But as our hands meet, she leans forward slightly and speaks in a voice so low that only I can hear her words. "Mr. Henderson," she whispers, "I received your evidence package 2 days ago. Thank you for your thoroughness and your patience." The relief that floods through me is so intense that I almost stagger. For weeks, I've been carrying the weight of Amanda's threats and the fear that her manipulation might succeed in destroying my reputation before I could expose the truth. But Dean Foster's words tell me that the university administration has been conducting its own investigation parallel to mine. We've been working with federal investigators. Dean Foster continues, still maintaining the appearance of a routine graduation interaction. Your documentation was exactly what they needed to complete their case. In 30 seconds, I need you to accept your diploma and thank your family. This ceremony is being recorded, and your response will become part of the official record. My mind races to process what she's telling me. Federal investigators means this situation extends beyond university policy violations or even local criminal charges. Amanda's fraud has apparently reached a level that involves federal agencies, which suggests organized criminal activity rather than isolated academic misconduct. Dean Foster releases my hand and addresses the audience with the measured authority of someone who has spent decades managing public crises. Ladies and gentlemen, she announces, her voice carrying clearly through the wireless microphone. Northwestern University takes allegations of academic misconduct seriously. However, we also take pride in our thorough investigation processes and our commitment to protecting the integrity of our graduates. She pauses, letting her words settle over the crowd. The silence in the auditorium is complete. Even the usually restless children in the audience have stopped fidgeting. Everyone understands that they are witnessing something unprecedented. Mr. Joshua Henderson. Dean Foster continues, has been the subject of a comprehensive review of his academic record initiated several weeks ago based on anonymous allegations. I am pleased to report that this review has found no evidence of academic dishonesty. Furthermore, the investigation has revealed that Mr. Henderson has been cooperating with university officials and law enforcement agencies in exposing a significant academic fraud operation that has affected multiple institutions in the Chicago area. The gasps from the audience are audible now. I see heads turning toward Amanda, whose face has gone completely white. She's gripping the armrest of her chair so tightly that her knuckles look like they might split the skin. Derek is staring at her with an expression of dawning comprehension and horror. Dean Foster hands me my diploma with ceremony appropriate to the occasion, but her smile contains layers of meaning that only I can fully appreciate. This isn't just recognition of my academic achievement. It's validation that my decision to document and report Amanda's crimes was morally correct, even though it meant betraying my own sister. Mr. Henderson. Dean Foster says, still speaking into the microphone, your commitment to academic integrity, even under difficult personal circumstances, reflects the highest values of our engineering program. Your willingness to assist in protecting other students from fraudulent schemes demonstrates the kind of ethical leadership we hope to instill in all our graduates. She's not just clearing my name, she's publicly establishing that I've been working with the university administration as a witness and ally, not as a suspect under investigation. Amanda's attempt to portray me as a cheater has backfired completely, instead highlighting my cooperation with authorities investigating academic fraud. As Dean Foster steps back, I understand that what looked like a family dispute is actually the public conclusion of a months-long investigation into criminal activity. The university has been building a case against Amanda and potentially other people involved in the fraud operation she was running. My evidence wasn't just helpful to their investigation. It was the missing piece they needed to complete it. I think about FBI agent Patricia Walsh, whom Jake Morrison had mentioned during his investigation. She specializes in education fraud cases involving federal student aid programs. If Amanda was stealing money while receiving federal grants or subsidized loans, her crimes automatically become federal offenses. The systematic nature of her cheating, combined with her theft from our parents' business, suggests a pattern of behavior that fits federal definitions of organized fraud. The university's legal counsel, David Murphy, had apparently been coordinating with federal investigators for weeks before my graduation ceremony. They were waiting for Amanda to make a public move that would create additional evidence of her willingness to lie and manipulate facts to protect herself from prosecution. Amanda's outburst has provided exactly that evidence. She has publicly accused an innocent person of crimes in front of 2,000 witnesses, creating a legal record of her willingness to commit perjury and obstruct justice. If she's been lying to federal investigators about her own activities, today's performance demonstrates her consciousness of guilt and her commitment to deception, even when facing serious criminal charges. I realize that Dean Foster's careful management of this moment serves multiple purposes beyond clearing my reputation. She's creating an official university record that establishes the timeline and facts of the investigation. She's publicly separating Northwestern from any association with Amanda's criminal activities. And she's demonstrating the university's commitment to protecting honest students from fraud schemes. But most importantly, she's giving me the opportunity to accept my diploma with dignity and pride, surrounded by family and friends who now understand that my character has been validated rather than questioned. Instead of a moment of humiliation and shame, my graduation has become a public vindication of everything I believe about honesty, integrity, and moral courage. As I hold my diploma and look out at the audience, I see Professor Williams nodding with approval and pride. My parents are still processing what they've heard, but the relief on their faces is evident. They're beginning to understand that their son hasn't just avoided disgrace. He's been recognized for doing the right thing under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. Amanda remains frozen in her seat, apparently unable to process how completely her plan has failed. She expected to destroy my reputation and escape accountability for her own crimes. Instead, she has publicly exposed herself as someone willing to lie about her own family to avoid consequences for criminal behavior. But I also noticed something else in Amanda's expression. Underneath the shock and fear, there's a flicker of something that might be the beginning of recognition that her web of lies has finally collapsed completely. For the first time in years, she's facing a situation she can't manipulate, charm, or lie her way out of. The truth has a weight and momentum that eventually crushes all the deception built on top of it. And today, in front of 2,000 witnesses, that truth has finally broken through to the surface. As I step down from the podium, diploma in hand, I expect to face my parents' confusion and disappointment. The last few minutes have been a whirlwind of revelations that would leave anyone struggling to understand what they've witnessed. I'm prepared to explain everything, to defend my actions, to convince them that I've acted with their best interests at heart. But when I reach Robert and Linda Henderson in the third row, my father's weathered face breaks into a smile that contains 30 years of parental pride and relief. My mother's eyes are filled with tears, but they're tears of gratitude rather than grief. Ahmad, my father says, pulling me into an embrace that smells like sawdust and honest work. We've been waiting weeks for this moment. We're so proud of how you handled everything. The confusion on my face must be obvious because my mother quickly explains. Joshua, we found your security cameras 2 months ago. At first we thought you were spying on us and we felt hurt and betrayed. But when we watched the footage to understand why our own son would violate our trust, we discovered what Amanda was doing. The relief that washes over me is so intense that my knees almost buckle. For months, I've been carrying the burden of protecting our parents while knowing that exposing Amanda's crimes would devastate them. I thought I would have to choose between family loyalty and moral responsibility. But Robert and Linda have already made that choice themselves. We've been working with District Attorney Michael Torres for 6 weeks. My father continues. Amanda stole over $15,000 from our store, but more importantly, she destroyed our trust in customers who've supported our business for decades. We couldn't let her crimes continue, even if it meant prosecuting our own daughter. See, my mother takes my hand with the gentle strength that has guided our family through every crisis we've ever faced. We also couldn't let her destroy your reputation and your future to cover up her own guilt. Amanda made her choices, and now she has to live with the consequences. But you chose to protect people who couldn't protect themselves, and that's the kind of man we raised you to be. I learned that our parents' investigation began independently of mine, but reached similar conclusions through different evidence. They had noticed discrepancies in their business accounts that didn't match the security footage from my cameras. When they compared their records to actual bank deposits, they found systematic discrepancies that could only be explained by deliberate theft. Robert and Linda hired their own private investigator, a former police detective named Sarah Mitchell, who specialized in family financial crimes. Sarah's investigation revealed not just Amanda's embezzlement from the hardware store, but also her academic fraud dating back to her college years. She had cross-referenced Amanda's banking records with payments to essay writing services and exam-taking companies. We knew you'd been helping Amanda with her studies, my mother admits, but we also knew you well enough to understand that you were probably doing her work for her, not teaching her how to cheat. You've always been too generous with people who don't deserve your kindness. The family lawyer, Elizabeth Harper, had advised Robert and Linda to document everything before confronting Amanda directly. She explained that Amanda's crimes involved multiple jurisdictions and potentially federal charges, so local law enforcement needed time to coordinate with other agencies before making arrests. We wanted Amanda to have the chance to confess and make restitution, my father explains. We hoped that facing the consequences might help her understand how much damage she was causing. But when we learned she was planning to sabotage your graduation and your career, we realized she hadn't learned anything from our family values. Elizabeth Harper had also connected our parents with Northwestern's legal counsel when they discovered Amanda's plan to accuse me of academic fraud. The university was already investigating suspicious transcripts and recommendation letters that had been submitted by students who later turned out to be involved in academic fraud schemes. Amanda's own academic records were part of that investigation. When university officials compared her submitted work to writing samples from her job applications, they found evidence suggesting that much of her coursework had been completed by someone else. The writing style's analytical approaches and technical competencies were completely different between her academic transcripts and her professional communications. The hardest part, my mother confesses, was watching Amanda plan her attack on you while pretending to care about family relationships. She kept coming to family dinners, bringing expensive gifts, acting like the successful daughter who was making us proud. But we knew she was stealing from us to pay for those gifts and planning to destroy your reputation to hide her crimes. Robert and Linda had spent sleepless nights debating whether to warn me about Amanda's plans. They wanted to protect me, but they also wanted to give Amanda every possible opportunity to choose honesty over deception. Elizabeth Harper had advised them that warning me might interfere with the ongoing investigation, since law enforcement agencies needed Amanda to commit to her lies before they could demonstrate the full scope of her criminal intent. It was the hardest decision we've ever made as parents, my father admits. Watching Amanda humiliate you in public knowing we could have prevented it felt like betraying everything we believe about protecting our children. But we also knew that stopping her would only delay the inevitable confrontation. She needed to face the full consequences of her choices. The bank manager, Susan Wright, had flagged Amanda's suspicious financial activities months earlier, but couldn't take action without account holder complaints or law enforcement requests. When our parents contacted the bank about the discrepancies in their business deposits, Susan was able to provide detailed records showing exactly how Amanda had been stealing money and covering her tracks. Amanda thought she was smarter than everyone else, my mother observes sadly. She assumed we were too trusting and too old-fashioned to understand modern financial crimes. But she forgot that running a small business for 25 years teaches you to notice when money doesn't add up correctly. As we talk, I realize that our parents have been protecting me just as much as I've been trying to protect them. They discovered Amanda's crimes, independently reported them to appropriate authorities, and coordinated with university officials to make sure my reputation would be cleared publicly. They've been carrying the emotional burden of prosecuting their own daughter while supporting my career and education. The hardware store will recover, my father assures me. We've implemented new security measures and rebuilt relationships with customers who Amanda's lies had damaged. But more importantly, we've learned to trust our instincts about people's character even when those people are our own children. My mother has tears in her eyes as she explains their long-term plans. We've decided to restructure the business with you as the primary heir. Amanda forfeited her claim to family assets when she chose to steal from the people who sacrificed everything for her education. We want to make sure our life's work goes to someone who shares our values about honesty and hard work. The conversation is interrupted by commotion behind us. Amanda has stood up and is arguing loudly with Derek and his family. Even from a distance, I can see that her composed facade is cracking under the pressure of watching her lies unravel in public. She's gesticulating wildly, apparently trying to convince Derek that everything she's heard is some kind of conspiracy against her. But Derek's family is already distancing themselves from her. Senator Bradley Harrison is a politician who understands that association with criminal fraud could destroy his career. His wife and children are gathering their belongings and preparing to leave the auditorium without Amanda. She's about to lose everything, my mother observes with more sadness than satisfaction. Her job, her relationship, her reputation, her freedom. All because she couldn't accept that success requires actual effort and honesty. As we watch Amanda's world collapse in real time, I understand that our parents have been grieving the loss of their daughter for months. They've already processed their disappointment, anger, and heartbreak. Today's events aren't surprising them. They're simply the public conclusion of a private tragedy that began the first time Amanda chose deception over honesty. We still love her, my father says quietly. She's our daughter and that will never change. But love doesn't mean enabling destructive behavior or protecting someone from the consequences of their choices. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the truth about themselves. My mother squeezes my hand tighter. You've shown us what real integrity looks like, Joshua. You protected our business, exposed criminal activity, and maintained your principles even when it cost you something. We couldn't be prouder of the man you've become. Standing here with my parents holding my hard-earned diploma, surrounded by evidence that truth and honesty ultimately prevail over deception and manipulation, I understand that some battles are worth fighting even when they tear families apart. My relationship with Amanda may never recover, but my relationship with our parents has been strengthened by shared commitment to moral principles that transcend blood relationships. The family bond that matters most isn't the one based on genetic connection, but the one based on shared values, mutual respect, and commitment to protecting each other through honest means. Robert and Linda Henderson raised 2 children, but only one of them learned the lessons they tried to teach about character integrity and the difference between right and wrong. As my family conversation concludes, Amanda breaks away from Derek's family and storms across the auditorium toward us. Her perfectly styled hair is disheveled, her designer dress wrinkled from gripping the fabric, and her makeup smeared from what appear to be tears of rage rather than sadness. She looks like someone whose carefully constructed world has exploded, leaving her scrambling to salvage anything from the wreckage. Joshua, she shouts loud enough that half the remaining graduation attendees turn to stare. What did you tell the dean? What lies have you been spreading about me? Derek follows behind her, along with his family. Senator Bradley Harrison looks like a man who has suddenly realized he's been photographed at a crime scene. His wife, Margaret Harrison, is clutching her purse like a shield. Their teenage daughter appears mortified by the public spectacle. These are people who've spent their entire lives managing their public image, and they're watching their carefully maintained reputation become collateral damage in Amanda's meltdown. I need to know exactly what accusations you've made, Amanda continues, pointing her finger at me like a weapon. Because I have lawyers, Joshua. I have evidence of your academic fraud dating back 3 years. I have recordings of you admitting to cheating, bragging about getting away with it, explaining your techniques to other students. She pulls out her cell phone and starts playing audio clips that sound damning without context. Senator Harrison listens for about 30 seconds before his political instincts kick in. He recognizes edited recordings when he hears them, probably because he's used similar techniques in campaign advertisements designed to make his opponents sound guilty of statements they never made. Amanda. Senator Harrison interrupts. I think we need to step back and consider the legal implications of what we've heard today. These recordings could be considered evidence in a criminal investigation, and playing them publicly might constitute obstruction of justice. But Amanda is too desperate to accept political advice. She's facing the complete collapse of everything she's built through deception, and she's willing to say anything, do anything, accuse anyone if it might give her a chance to escape consequences. He manipulated me, Amanda screams now, addressing the crowd of graduation attendees who've formed an impromptu audience around our family drama. Joshua convinced me to let him do my college work. Then he used my academic success to get connections at Northwestern. He's been planning this for years, building his reputation by destroying mine. The desperation in her voice is painful to hear. She's cycling through different versions of events trying to find one that might convince anyone that she's the victim, rather than the perpetrator. But each lie contradicts the previous one, making her sound increasingly unstable and unreliable. My mother steps forward with the quiet authority of someone who has tolerated enough. Amanda, you need to stop. Right now. These people don't deserve to be subjected to your lies, and you're only making your legal situation worse. My legal situation. Amanda laughs, but it's the harsh sound of someone who's lost touch with reality. What legal situation? I haven't done anything wrong. Joshua is the criminal. He's been cheating for years, stealing from our parents' business to pay for school, manipulating professors with fake sob stories about financial hardship. This is when Derek's composure finally breaks completely. He's been listening to Amanda's escalating lies with growing horror, and her accusation that I've been stealing from our parents apparently crosses a line he can't ignore. Amanda, stop, Derek says firmly. Just stop talking. You're making things worse for yourself. Making things worse. Amanda spins around to face him. Derek, you know me better than anyone. You know I would never cheat or lie or steal. Tell them. Tell everyone that these accusations are ridiculous. The silence that follows is devastating. Derek looks at Amanda like he's seeing her clearly for the first time, and what he sees horrifies him. This is a man whose father built a political career on integrity and public service. His mother runs charitable organizations that depend on donor trust. His family's reputation is built on decades of ethical behavior and community service. Amanda, Derek says quietly, I can't defend you anymore. I've been ignoring red flags for months because I wanted to believe you were the person you pretended to be. But everything I've heard today explains things that never made sense about your lifestyle, your work stories, your relationship with your family. Senator Harrison places his hand on his son's shoulder, a gesture that clearly communicates family solidarity. Son, you've made the right decision. Sometimes people we care about make choices that force us to choose between loyalty and integrity. Amanda's face contorts with rage and disbelief. She's losing her boyfriend, his family's political connections, and her carefully cultivated image as the perfect political wife in training. You're all going to regret this, she threatens. When the truth comes out, when everyone realizes Joshua has been manipulating all of you, you'll be sorry you didn't support me. But her threats sound hollow, even to her own ears. She's been exposed as someone willing to lie about her own brother, steal from her own parents, and manipulate everyone around her for personal gain. No reasonable person would trust anything she says at this point. Ms. Davidson, Amanda's supervisor from Morrison & Associates, chooses this moment to approach our group. She's been watching the confrontation from across the auditorium, apparently waiting for an appropriate moment to intervene. She carries herself with the professional authority of someone who's spent years managing corporate crises. Amanda, Ms. Davidson says, I received a call from our legal department this morning. They've been contacted by federal investigators regarding your academic credentials and client work. Based on what I've witnessed here today and the evidence that's been presented to our firm, your employment with Morrison & Associates is terminated effective immediately. The words hit Amanda like physical blows. She staggers backward, apparently unable to process that she's being fired in front of her ex-boyfriend's family, her former professors, and dozens of witnesses. Her consulting job was the foundation of her adult identity, the source of her financial independence, and her pathway to the social status she craved. You can't fire me, Amanda protests weakly. I have contracts with clients. I have projects that depend on my expertise. Actually, Ms. Davidson replies calmly, we can terminate your employment for cause when we discover that your academic credentials were obtained through fraud. Our clients trusted us to provide qualified professionals, and you've been misrepresenting your qualifications since the day we hired you. She hands Amanda an envelope that presumably contains official termination paperwork. Your access to company systems has been revoked. Your corporate credit cards have been canceled, and security will escort you from our offices if you attempt to retrieve personal items without prior arrangement. Amanda's final desperate move is to turn back to our parents with what appears to be genuine tears. Mom, Dad, you have to believe me. Joshua has been planning this for years. He's been stealing from your store and blaming me to cover his tracks. Look at your bank records. Look at your security footage. You'll see that I'm telling the truth. But Robert and Linda Henderson exchange glances that communicate 3 decades of shared decisions and mutual trust. They've already examined their bank records and security footage. They've already spoken with investigators and lawyers. They've already made their choice between their two children. Amanda, my father says with infinite sadness, we've seen the security footage. We've reviewed our bank records. We know exactly what you've done, and we know exactly what Joshua did to try to protect us from your crimes. There's nothing left to debate or investigate. The evidence speaks for itself. My mother steps forward with tears in her eyes. We still love you, sweetheart. You're our daughter, and that will never change. But we can't enable your destructive behavior anymore. If you want to rebuild your life, you'll need to start by accepting responsibility for your choices and making amends to the people you've hurt. Amanda looks around the circle of people who were once her support system and sees only faces filled with disappointment, disgust, and determination to hold her accountable. Her lies have finally caught up with her, and there's nowhere left to run. For the first time since this confrontation began, Amanda seems to grasp the full scope of what she's lost. Her family, her career, her relationship, her reputation, her freedom. Everything she thought she'd secured through manipulation and deception has crumbled in the span of 30 minutes. The crowd of graduation attendees begins to disperse as the immediate drama concludes. People gather their belongings and head toward parking lots, probably eager to distance themselves from a family crisis that's become uncomfortably public. But many of them pause to offer me congratulations on my graduation and words of support for handling a difficult situation with dignity. Amanda stands alone in the center of the auditorium, still wearing her expensive designer dress, still carrying her luxury handbag, still maintaining the external appearance of success. Even as everything she's built collapses around her, she looks like someone who's finally run out of lies, tricks, and people to manipulate. The truth has a momentum that eventually overwhelms all efforts to contain or redirect it. And today, in front of hundreds of witnesses, that momentum has finally carried Amanda's deceptions to their inevitable conclusion. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my office at Boeing's Chicago facility, wearing the navy blue polo shirt that identifies me as a junior engineer in the Sustainable Aviation Systems division. The view from my 23rd floor window shows Lake Michigan stretching toward a horizon that seems to promise endless possibilities for someone willing to work honestly toward their goals. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah Mitchell, the engineering student who received the first academic integrity scholarship that I established, using money recovered from Amanda's theft. She's sending me photos from her thermodynamics lab where she's testing heat exchanger designs that could improve aircraft fuel efficiency by 12%. Her excitement about the technical challenges reminds me why I chose engineering in the first place. The scholarship fund has grown beyond anything I initially imagined. Derek's family contributed $50,000 as what Senator Harrison called an investment in rewarding the kind of character we want to see in public life. Morrison and Associates donated $30,000 to demonstrate their commitment to academic integrity after the embarrassment of employing Amanda. Even Northwestern University contributed funding and administrative support to ensure the scholarship would continue helping honest students for years to come. We've awarded scholarships to 15 students so far, each one someone who demonstrated integrity under pressure, rather than choosing shortcuts that compromise their principles. The application process requires candidates to write essays about ethical challenges they've faced, and the responses have been both heartbreaking and inspiring. These young people understand that character is forged through difficult choices, not inherited through family connections or purchased through deception. Amanda served 6 months in federal minimum security prison for mail fraud, wire fraud, and embezzlement. Her cooperation with federal investigators helped expose an academic fraud network that operated across 12 universities in Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. Dozens of students received fraudulent degrees, and several professors accepted bribes to submit false grades and recommendation letters. The investigation revealed that Amanda wasn't just a client of these fraud services. She had become a recruiter identifying struggling students who might pay for academic assistance and connecting them with essay mills and test-taking services. Her commission from these referrals helped fund her expensive lifestyle during her senior year of college. But Amanda's cooperation with prosecutors also demonstrated something I had hoped to see: genuine remorse for the people she had hurt. She provided detailed testimony about how the fraud networks operated, helped investigators recover stolen money, and wrote letters of apology to our parents that showed real understanding of the damage her choices had caused. 2 weeks ago, Amanda was released to a halfway house in Milwaukee where she's working as a data entry clerk for a nonprofit organization that helps ex-offenders find employment. She's attending counseling sessions for people with compulsive lying disorders, participating in financial responsibility workshops, and slowly paying restitution to our parents' business. Last Friday, she sent me a letter that I've read dozens of times, trying to understand whether her transformation is genuine or simply another manipulation designed to win sympathy. But the letter doesn't ask for forgiveness or make excuses for her behavior. Instead, it acknowledges specific ways that her choices hurt specific people, and it outlines concrete steps she's taking to rebuild her life on honest foundations. Joshua, she wrote, I spent years telling myself that success justified any methods I used to achieve it. I convinced myself that everyone was cheating somehow, and that being honest just meant being stupid. But prison taught me that success built on lies isn't actually success at all. It's just postponed failure with interest. She described how incarceration forced her to confront the difference between intelligence and wisdom, between cleverness and integrity, between getting what you want and earning what you deserve. I was smart enough to manipulate people and systems, but I was too foolish to understand that manipulation destroys the relationships and reputation that make success meaningful. The letter explained how Amanda's counseling sessions have helped her understand the psychological patterns that led to her criminal behavior. She had developed a belief that she deserved success regardless of effort, combined with a fear of failure that made honest competition feel impossible. Cheating became a way to avoid discovering whether she was actually capable of legitimate achievement. I robbed myself of the chance to find out what I could accomplish through honest work, Amanda admitted. Every fraudulent success made me more afraid of trying legitimate challenges, because I didn't know if my real abilities were good enough. I became trapped in a cycle where each lie required bigger lies to maintain the illusion. But the most meaningful part of her letter addressed our relationship as siblings. I treated you like a tool to be used rather than a brother to be loved, she wrote. I took advantage of your generosity and kindness, then tried to destroy your reputation when your integrity threatened my deception. I can't undo those choices, but I want you to know that I finally understand how much I lost when I chose manipulation over honest relationships. Yesterday, I visited Amanda at the halfway house for the first time since her arrest. She looked smaller somehow, wearing donated clothes and no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. But her eyes held something I hadn't seen since we were children: genuine humility and the beginning of peace that comes from accepting responsibility rather than fighting it. We talked for 2 hours about her plans for rebuilding her life. She's applying to community college programs that would give her legitimate skills in accounting and business administration. She wants to work for nonprofits that help other people recover from financial crimes and addiction. She's learning to find satisfaction in honest work that serves others rather than manipulating others to serve her. I'm never going to be wealthy or powerful or famous, Amanda told me, but I might be able to become someone who helps other people avoid the mistakes I made. That feels more valuable than anything I thought I wanted before. I offered her conditional forgiveness with clear boundaries about future contact and expectations about continued honesty. Our relationship will never return to what it was before her betrayal, but it might evolve into something healthier than the enabling dynamic that contributed to her criminal behavior. Our parents have also begun rebuilding their relationship with Amanda, but they've learned to love her without enabling her destructive choices. They visit her regularly, support her legitimate efforts at rehabilitation, and maintain hope for her future while accepting that trust must be earned through consistent, honest behavior over time. The hardware store has not only recovered but actually grown stronger as a result of the crisis. Robert and Linda implemented new security systems, rebuilt relationships with customers who had been damaged by Amanda's lies, and discovered that many people in the community respected their decision to hold their own daughter accountable for criminal behavior. It sent a message that we believe in the same values at home that we practice in business, my father explained. People trust us more now because they know we'll do the right thing even when it costs us personally. My relationship with Sarah, the scholarship recipient, has developed into something beautiful and strong. We're building a partnership based on shared values, mutual respect, and the understanding that authentic love requires honesty even when truth is difficult. She knows everything about Amanda's crimes and my role in exposing them, and she respects the choices I made to protect innocent people rather than enable family dysfunction. Sarah is brilliant, driven, and committed to using her engineering skills to solve environmental challenges that will benefit future generations. But more importantly, she's someone whose character has been tested and proven through her own struggles with academic pressure and financial hardship. She chose integrity when choosing shortcuts would have been easier, and that choice revealed the kind of person she truly is. At Boeing, I've been promoted ahead of schedule to a position developing ethical guidelines for academic credential verification in technical hiring. The company recognizes that my experience with academic fraud gives me unique insights into protecting employers and colleagues from people who misrepresent their qualifications. I've helped design screening processes that detect inconsistencies in educational backgrounds, and I've trained hiring managers to recognize red flags that might indicate academic dishonesty. The work feels meaningful because it protects honest students from being passed over in favor of people who gained unfair advantages through fraud. But the most satisfying part of my life now is the peace that comes from understanding that integrity isn't just about avoiding wrongdoing. True integrity means actively protecting others from harm, even when that protection requires personal sacrifice or family conflict. The choice to expose Amanda's crimes was the hardest decision I've ever made, but it was also the most important. By refusing to enable her destructive behavior, I helped prevent her from hurting more innocent people. By documenting evidence rather than staying silent, I protected students, clients, and family members who couldn't protect themselves. I learned that family loyalty doesn't mean protecting family members from the consequences of their choices. Real love sometimes requires allowing people to face the natural results of their behavior, because consequences teach lessons that enabling never can. The greatest victories in life aren't about defeating other people or winning competitions. They're about maintaining your principles when maintaining them costs you something valuable. They're about choosing truth over comfort, integrity over advantage, service over selfishness. Success that's built on lies is always temporary because truth has a persistence that eventually overwhelms all efforts to contain it. But success that's built on honest effort, ethical choices, and service to others creates a foundation that strengthens with time, rather than crumbling under pressure. Amanda taught me that intelligence without integrity is just sophisticated foolishness. She showed me that talent without character leads to destruction rather than achievement. But she also demonstrated that people can change when they finally accept responsibility for their choices and commit to building new lives on honest foundations. The scholarship recipients send me updates about their academic progress, career goals, and personal challenges. Reading their stories reminds me that integrity is contagious. When people see others choosing honesty despite pressure to compromise, it gives them courage to make similar choices in their own lives. These students understand that character isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest about your imperfections and working consistently to become the kind of person you respect. It's about accepting help when you need it, offering help when others need it, and building relationships based on truth rather than manipulation. As I finish writing this story, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever faced a situation where doing the right thing meant confronting someone you cared about? Have you had to choose between loyalty and integrity, between protecting someone's feelings and protecting innocent people from harm? Those moments reveal who we truly are beneath our comfortable assumptions about ourselves. They test whether our principles are genuine convictions or just words we use when following them doesn't cost us anything. I'd love to hear your thoughts about family loyalty, moral courage, and the difference between enabling destructive behavior and offering genuine support. Please share your experiences in the comments below and let me know if this story resonated with challenges you've faced in your own life. If this story helped you think about integrity in new ways, I'd appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary moral challenges. And please share this story with friends or family members who might benefit from understanding how honesty and courage ultimately triumph over deception and manipulation. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope that whatever challenges you're facing, you'll have the wisdom to choose integrity over advantage and the courage to protect the people who can't protect themselves. The right choice isn't always the easy choice, but it's always the choice that leads to genuine peace and lasting satisfaction. Remember that your character is forged through the decisions you make when no one is watching, and when doing the right thing costs you something you value. Those moments of testing reveal the person you truly are and determine the kind of life you'll ultimately build. Choose integrity, choose courage, choose truth. Your future self will thank you for the foundations you're building today through honest choices and principled action.